I'm Sara Pink, Director of Library and Archives here at the Royal College of Surgeons of England. I see my primary role as working with my fantastic colleagues to help support them and their amazing knowledge of everything that we have, archival, printed, special collections, and how that relates to the history of medicine and the history of surgery. And I think we feel very strongly that if we can preserve the past, we can understand and interpret the present, and perhaps even have a think about the future of medicine and surgery and where that will take us. We also have, as you would expect, strategic aims and objectives, and a lot of that focuses on accessibility of our collections and digitisation of those collections that we want to make available to wider audiences. So that would be both here in the UK, but also internationally. And that is why the partnership that we have with TownsWeb is so important, because it's an enabler to allow people to understand collections that perhaps they don't know exist, that they don't know that we have, and to work with people to understand the past, which will help us to understand where we're going. In June 2024, we saw a call out from TownsWeb asking for applications for a digitisation grant. After careful consideration, the team and I put forward 3 documents for consideration, and 2 of those were about social history as it relates to women. And the reason that we chose these documents is because they've never been digitised before, so they're only available in hard copy in the library here in London. And we wanted to shine a light on the struggles of women and their journey through society, and also the struggles of women entering the profession, both qualifying as doctors, but also taking their examinations. And we just thought this would be a great opportunity to bid for the funds to allow us to do that. We also included another document in that, which was the Diary of a Resurrectionist. And that's, we think, the only surviving diary of a grave robber. So we were delighted when we found out, quite unexpectedly, because you never know how these things will go, in August 2024, that along with 2 other institutions, we have been awarded the funding from TownsWeb, of which we are hugely grateful. And the 3 items were digitised, and they are now live on our catalogue, so that anyone, anywhere can access the full text of those primary source documents. So we have been doing some digitisation projects through the years, but I think we just really wanted to have a deeper look at our collections and shine a light on those that we felt really told a story, and perhaps ones that were a little bit more in need of preservation and conservation. So we worry sometimes whether our collections are going to need extra care, and if we digitise them with a company such as TownsWeb, then we know that they will be saved and safe for future generations. I think it's just really important. Don't put too much pressure on yourselves, but have a look at your collections in terms of perhaps a critical friend. What do you think people out there might get the most from? What is perhaps the most obscure, most unusual item in your collection? That can be really key, I think, if you are applying for a funding award, because the competition in the heritage sector for funding is immense, as everybody will know. And I think if you have something very unusual, perhaps very quirky, illustrations are always good if you have those, you stand a much higher chance, I think, of getting that funding. If you're funding it yourself, then some of that pressure melts away. But I think it's still about, what is this document or this book? What is it telling us? What is it telling our audience? And does it rely on anything else? Are there more parts to the puzzle that give us a full story, a full picture of something that happened to somebody in the past? I think immense really would be how I would sum it up. I think it's so gratifying to see these collections online and be able to look at them from anywhere. And the Royal College of Surgeons of England is very keen on engaging with people who can't necessarily come to London, who may be in another part of the world somewhere. And I think it's important that those stories reach those audiences. And it's something, back in the day, I've been in the profession for about 30 years, we didn't really think globally in that way. And now we can reach so many more people that I think that's really important. And engagement, I'm glad that you asked me that. Engagement and outreach activities is another core aim of the college and of the Library and Archive Service itself. And we like to work with schools, we like to work with young people and show them what happened in the past and let them interpret that. And it's wonderful when they do that and they come and visit us and we can see the relevance of the collections that we have now on people today who are studying or who are just understanding the world of medicine and the role that surgery has played within that. Okay, so what we have here is a petition to the Royal College of Surgeons of England. And this petition was made by Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. She was the first British woman to qualify as a doctor. But I think what's less known about Elizabeth is that she was a bit of a trailblazer, and she had been trying on several occasions to take her examinations at the college. In fact, 3 times she petitioned the college to allow her to take her examinations, and 3 times she was refused. I think it's safe to say there were a couple of reasons why that happened back in the day. And 2 of the main reasons that stand out for me, one was perspectives of society on the role of women entering the medical profession. And there were views that this was not the right profession for women, that perhaps their constitution, their mental, their physical, their emotional nature didn't quite fit with medicine and surgery. There were views that women looking at cadavers, for example, or too much blood and gore would just be too much for the female constitution. And men did feel that women might faint in a theatre or may not be able to go ahead with a surgical operation that was too messy. And then there is another school of thought that some of it might just have been jealousy as well on the part of men who perhaps didn't want to compete with an influx of women coming into the profession at a time when perhaps there weren't enough jobs for everybody. So there were a couple of things combining here to make it quite difficult for Elizabeth and her colleagues to take their exams. I think what nobody really realised about Elizabeth Garrett Anderson is that she was incredibly persistent. So she ended up on a 45-year battle with the Royal College of Surgeons of England to have women admitted to take their exams. And that started in 1861. And then in 1906, Elizabeth got together, I suppose you could kind of call it an army of her colleagues. She got together with women from the London School of Medicine and from the Royal Free Hospital. And she has, in this document, 39, I think perhaps just a little bit over 39 or so signatures. And what's important about that as well is there are a significant amount of men who have signed this document lobbying against the college to let women in to take their exams. This was put forward, we think, in 1906. And 2 years later, in 1908, the college balloted formally their fellows and their members to say, OK, are we going to admit women to the college to take their examinations? The bad news is that the majority vote was still refused, and the fellows and members felt that the time was not right. However, the good news is that the council decided this time around that that was not sufficient to ban women from taking their exams, and they were admitted. on the agreement that they could not be involved in the governance of the college in any way. So that was the compromise that was made. And it's not until 1926 that the Royal College of Surgeons of England finally admits women on the same terms and conditions as their male counterparts.